partner, Todd Walker, as I know him, Todd. Now, Todd is going to be a co-host on this podcast that we're starting. A podcast called Bourbon and Briar. But tonight,
I got the bourbon.
And I got the Briar. Tonight, Todd's going to play a little bit different role, and we're going to treat him as a guest. And I'm going to throw some thoughts out at him and just kind of get his feedback, his opinions, and see where it leads. We've got a very evolutionary path in front of us in terms of this podcast. We really want to get to the point where we can offer the opportunity for comments to be submitted and ultimately to have maybe live call-in. But for tonight, we're just trying to get through a podcast. So again, evolving as we go. Todd and I grew up in the same city at the same time, Dothan, Alabama. Toddy, would you say there was anything special that was going on there in terms of the music that, I mean, when we were 8 years old, we didn't really realize it. But ultimately, did you recognize that there was something special happening there?
The exposure that you got in this little bitty corner of southeast Alabama was actually incredible. Who knew that one little space of real estate tucked away in the middle of nowhere, you would be exposed to so many different genres of music? And it was 2 radio stations in town, and it was just, I don't know, the way it was. You know, our friends had older brothers, older sisters that, you know, Robert Sparks. You know, Sparky turned me on to Black Sabbath in 1970. Yeah, so it was the way it was in Dothan at the time.
So, so I was there too, and I agree. It was an incredible time. Now, again, for a long time I didn't recognize that. I didn't realize that. Over the years, my awareness of that specialness has just continued to grow and grow and grow. But if you looked back at that time, and Dottie, we both have referred to it as the golden era. What is it about that time that you would say made it the golden era?
The diversity of everything that you were hearing. We don't have enough time to cover all of the different bands that may have been in the same genre with one another, but even within the genre, bands were different. Like I said, I mean, we could quickly rattle off, like I said, well, you had Black Sabbath, that stretched into Pablo Cruz and everything in between. And it's a pretty wide gap.
That was a weird segue, man. Black Sabbath to Pablo Cruz.
Diversity.
Yeah, and at times, I mean, like that, we were Dothan Civic Center. I mean, Lord, I look back at the list of bands that have come through the Dothan Civic Center. So, Toddy, in that golden era that we keep talking about, at what point, I keep saying my own experience, which is at the time I didn't realize what was happening. I didn't know the magic was happening. But at some point, the music grabbed me, and it became such a huge part of my life. Do you remember that time when it happened for you?
Actually, I do. Now, I'm going to give you a lead up. I was somewhat obsessed with WDIG anyway, but just because the disc jockeys more so than the music. Yeah, they were entertaining, and they brought a lot to the table with regards to that golden era. And from the standpoint of, they educated you on, once again, I go back to all the different types. But the one day, March the 1st, 1973, was 10 years old. Well, I fixed to be 11, but hey, you don't wish your life away. So I rode with my next door neighbor to the music scene. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon was being released on.
Which was a store at Northside Mall in Dothan, right?
There you go. He went to buy that record and talked me into buying an 8-track of Dark Side of the Moon. I got home and I had a little small 8-track player. I plugged it in, and I had never in my life heard anything remotely like this. And from that day on, was pretty much, like I said, consumed, especially with Pink Floyd. But March the 1st, 1973. So, yeah, there's a date I can point to.
Yeah, I don't know that I can point to a particular date. I just remember when that transition happened. I've shared pictures with you of two little AM radios, 9-volt batteries that I had, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, maybe a little older. Eventually, when I got more sophisticated radios, whoa. But I just know there was a point in time where music started hitting me in a different way. It started influencing me in a different way, and I didn't want to do anything without some music playing if it was possible. Now, so many bands, so many genres. You mentioned Pink Floyd. Is there a particular band, or maybe a couple of bands, that you would say really influenced you over that period of time that was so important when we were growing up and becoming teenagers?
Doobie Brothers. Yeah, I think my first recollection of them was probably 72, maybe. Once again, it was off radio play, but and the name kind of was catchy. Yeah, I mean, bottom line, being honest, it was stuff that attracted a 10-year-old. Yeah, the name Doobie Brothers. So, but you had them that come out in 72.
But then,
Holy
like,
crap, Sly and the Family Stone. Yeah.
and it, I know at some point you and I share love for Steely Dan, and at some point when Ricky Don't Lose That Number played on my little radio, it caught my ear. It was different. It did something to me. It's kind of like
So you just said,
and so I'm just thinking that you probably got several that were in that category of the songs that caught your ear and made you go, "Ugh, wow."
And when did Can't Buy a Thrill come out? 72?
Don't trust me on this, but I think so.
I get some, but the point there is 10 years old, that formative age, and it was just this onslaught of bands. And whether it was Steely Dan, Doobies, Pink Floyd, I mean, we could go on and on and on. Or you could even jump over into hard rock, Zeppelin and Zeppelin 2, about the same time frame.
Yep, and I'm going to tell you, man, one of those moments for me, for whatever reason, was Supertramp.
Oh.
Again, when that song would come on the radio, I had to stop and listen. It's like, this is different,
See, and but
Bloody
the
Well,
bands
right?
that we've
I'm
just
sorry.
mentioned, and Supertramp's Crime of the Century it is an incredible record. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't know enough people that probably even know about that album. Yeah, but
I've
what
got
an
a vinyl
incredible
copy of it. I've got a vinyl copy of it. But like I was saying, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, man, but the Bloody Well Right. I mean, that it was so different than the first Supertramp song that I'd heard, or maybe vice versa, but so different between those two. And yet, each one caught me by the throat and drugged me somewhere that I didn't know existed.
well put. But at the end of the day, what music is supposed to do, if it doesn't As you said,
Yes,
what'd you say? Grab you by the throat and
and
move you in some
drug me
way.
somewhere special. Yes,
It's probably not worth the shit
right.
if it don't do that.
Yeah. And the other aspect of it, Toddy, that we've talked about, though, is the time machine. Music is such a time machine. And a song comes on, whether it's Apple or Spotify or your CD player or whatever, and you can be taken back immediately to a so.
Yes.
I mean, would you agree that the music, on top of everything else, it's a time machine?
Oh, no doubt. But once again, it's that emotional attachment. Whether it was that you heard this song and you were with this person, or you were at this location, or you were doing this. Hell, it could have been even something as benign as you and Gil were riding around Dothan in a Vega, you know.
That wasn't
But
benign.
you,
That was never benign.
no, not with that dude. But I'm sure there's songs that you hear now that
Absolutely.
that that takes you back to that point of being in that Vega with that crazy ass Gil. Yep.
Or hey, man, I'm gonna tell you, Gil and his older brother and Scott and a friend of Scott's. We all took a trip to Gatlinburg in 1980 for New Year's Eve. Jerry Rafferty,
Oh,
his solo album, Baker Street, was just the rage right then. And Scott had an 8-track of that we played in Gil's car nonstop from Dothan to Gatlinburg. And I never appreciated that talent of Jerry Rafferty like I did then. And I can hear a Jerry Rafferty song today, and I'm right back in Gil's Camaro headed towards Gatlinburg.
see, but that's my point. Right there. Yeah, it transports you to that moment. And every time you hear a Jay Rafferty tune, you're there. That's that's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
once again, if it doesn't move you, it's probably not any good.
Yeah. And that's a good segue into another part of our conversation is that we'll have going forward from here. In the beginning of this, we started talking about music, good music. And that's the thing that Todd and I share a love of is not just music, but good music. But it lends itself to the question of, so, Dano, you say this is a good song. What makes you right?
Well, and I will say this: if you disagree, then that's fine. But you better bring something to the table to tell me why. Yeah, I have my opinions on what I think's good. Don't mean that there's others that don't like something else, but come educate me. If you think I think something's crap and you think it's good, tell me why I'm wrong. And
Yeah. Well,
if you can make me, if you can sell me on it, then I'm all for it. Because you can't get enough good music. You can't.
right. And the reason that I ask that is because we just talked about a couple of aspects of music, the magic of music. One being that time machine, and the other being that huge influence on your entire life. I mean, it's like the music is the soundtrack to our lives. And you look back and you can say, "Oh, that was 1984, and I was doing this." It's amazing, but it also comes down to that part about it. It creates a response in you. It creates some emotion in you. And if you ask me to quote, uh, you know, stand behind or explain why I say a song is a good song, it starts with that. If it makes me do what I just did, it's probably a good song.
Yeah. Oh, but I think too, if you sat back and you tried to I'll just say count the different genres. There was so much coming at you from so many different angles Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't cool to like disco, but there were parts of that that was really good. And see, now you can listen to it and claim it's nostalgia. When in all
Uh,
honesty, you liked it back then. You just wouldn't admit it.
oh no. Yeah, there was so much. So I'm gonna take disco and your comment about not cool and use that to jump into to you and I mean we're a little older than 21. When I fire up Apple Music, I have to search a little bit to find anything that I really want to hear. So if you looked at today's music, the music that's being released today in general, and that's a very broad brush to paint with. I recognize that there are a lot of very specific bands and a lot of specific songs that I fall in love with today. But in general, how would you compare what the musical environment is like today versus that golden era?
Today, it's all about instant gratification. Um, let's cut a record and let's get it out there and get people to download it, stream it. So you don't really build any excitement for we knew when an album was going to be released, and so you had this anticipation building for that date. It's just like here we are, 50 whatever years later, and I can still tell you the same date that Dark Side of the Moon was released. I can tell you the date that The Wall was released, but because it built up to that point, and you literally would go and have to stand in line at a record store to buy that album.
At the
Now,
music scene.
which is at Northside Mall. And so now, and this ain't to say that there's not some good bands out there now. There are. And as you were developing this podcast, I started forcing myself to listen to more new stuff, just to be fair. You and I have talked about Goose. I think they are outstanding.
Yes.
Lucas Nelson, whom I'm assuming is, Willie Nelson's,
Granddaughter.
child.
Granddaughter.
Yeah. Yes, damn good. So there's good stuff out there. It's just we get so jaded with the crap that's thrust upon you that you don't really look far enough to find. You just say, "Oh, screw it," and you go back to listening to what you know. And
Man,
and I'm guilty of that.
that was a
Yeah.
beautiful comment, Toddy. I'm gonna tell you that because that's exactly what I find myself doing. I'll turn one or two rocks over and see if there's something magic under one of them. But if there's not, I'm gonna go back and listen to Cracker.
To what you know. And I think that's because, like I said, so much of what is forced upon you is, like I said, it's all to those downloads. Instead of, finding a band like Goose. Again, if you can take Burning Down the House and turn it into a 10.5 minute anthem, I'm all for it, man. So there's good stuff.
Okay. And go ahead.
I think country music went down this path a little bit before rock and roll. Because now, and I'm going to stop short of knocking anybody in country music, but let's face it, there was about a 10-year period there
Not even Pete
they all,
Bryant.
that they all sounded the same. I literally have, no clue, is it this guy or that guy? It was like this cookie cutter was just spitting them out,
Yeah.
and they to sell records. Then along comes somebody like Sturgill Simpson, who pretty much said, "You know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna do it my way." And so that dynamic with them began to shift back a little bit, and
Well,
country is,
I think it was recognized that excuse me, there is some space for people that are outside the mainstream in country music. There are a lot of people
Oh,
that really,
absolutely.
really want to hear a Sturgill Simpson.
But I think pop music, if that's what we want to call it, whatever you're hearing, on radio, it's following the same path. And it's all, and always think that about record sales. I mean, shoot, a
But
band does an album that sells a gazillion copies, well, and the record company wants another one. I mean, everybody's in it for money.
yeah, okay.
Uh,
So Tony, let me ask you this though. All right, so we started out talking about the environment that we grew up in, a multitude of types of music, and I'm sitting here, and for whatever reason, I've got pop music, and I'm thinking, man, we loved pop music, and we loved, whether we admitted it or not, you can ring my bell, you can
Anita
ring,
Ward.
yeah, and then we went right over to Molly Hatchet. So I guess my point is if you went to today's, maybe I'll hear a song here and there that just really catches me, and it's that place in my mind. I say it affected me, it influenced me, it created some emotional response, if you will. It doesn't happen very often. What you said a minute ago is really what I'm pulling on. It's homogenous. It is there is no difference between a Talking Heads and a Molly Hatchet coming on back to back. It's this, and it's
Point.
this, and it's this.
And that's exactly what I meant about country went down that path 10 years ago.
Right.
Because if artist A's selling and he sounds like this,
Yeah.
well, that's what I want artist B and C to sound like. And your use of the word, homogenous there, that sums it up. Uh, because, once again, back to that golden era you're talking about. Okay, we could connect dots from the Talking Heads to Molly Hatchet to Parliament to, Commodores to Pink Floyd to Pablo Cruz. I mean, Little River Band. And, we were talking the other day about people we had left out in previous conversations. Aerosmith, AC/DC
Mhm.
comes up. So all of these that I've just named off have about as much in common as Sturgill Simpson and Luke Bryan. No, no offense to Luke Bryan, but
You mean Puke
I,
Bryant?
no. Um, so it was just a great time.
It, it,
And you
and it
threw
just it,
Steely Dan in there a while ago.
yeah.
All right, now think about it now. Here's a band that was obviously heavily influenced by jazz, um, but they're considered a rock band. How? How is that freaking possible? But they are, and they are outstanding. Yeah, uh,
They
and you and I've had
I'm just
conversation on them. Well, we all know Asia is an incredible record. But like, if Gaucho had come first, would Gaucho be in that spot? Because this is equally impressive. It just, it's kind of that. It's hard to follow greatness, and but my point there is, how did that band make it work?
they broke the mold, Toddy. They broke the mold. And that's I think is the key part of all of this. They didn't jump in and say, we've got to sound like X or we've got to sound like Y. We know what we want to be. We want to sound this way, and that's what they became. They broke the mold and they created their own mold, and their mold later became something that was target for other bands, and that jazz and rock fusion and everything else. There's funk in there too, man. But
Yeah.
everything else that was in the mix, the stew of Steely Dan, if they put it there because they liked it. They liked the way it sounded. It wasn't because they wanted to be the next whatever. They certainly were not going to be the next Who. They weren't going to be the next Elvis. They weren't going to be the next whatever. They were Steely Dan. And that was something like you and I talked about earlier that came out of that golden era. We were getting hit in the head almost constantly by somebody, some band that said, hey, listen to this. And that, I don't know if it's experimentation or if it falls under the progressive banner or where bands at that in that time frame. I'm talking about 67 to 90. I'll call it, or experimenting, and they were going out on limbs, and they were trying things and sounding different ways than people had ever heard, and in that process, took our brains to places that they had never been, and excited us and influenced us, and I just, or
Yeah,
I
you may.
think,
Yeah, I think you just landed on something. There was a thought process between not just Steely Dan, but Dire Straits, Talking Heads. We could go down that list of this is what we're going to do. If you like it, great. If you don't, not going to lose any sleep over it, but we're going to do what we want to do. If it gets played on the radio, so be it. If it doesn't, we can live with that. But we're going to do what we want to do. And I don't know if you see that too much now.
dude, I mean, you think about it. Money. When money started showing up on my little AM radio, my ears perked up, and I thought, "Holy shit! What am I hearing here?" And nobody else, nobody else was doing anything close to what Pink Floyd was doing at that point in time. But they weren't
Yeah.
doing it. But they weren't doing it to sound like anybody else. They were doing it because they thought, "Man, this is cool. I want to record this. I want to produce this. I want to put it out there in front of people." And that time of exploration seems to have faded. And now it's about punching a button on a computer and getting a pre-recorded drum roll or a chord progression that somehow is going to guarantee you it's a hit. It's a hit.
Exactly. And the people, we both have kids that are about the same age. And, fortunately, both yours and mine have developed this same love affair with music that you and I have. And if you pull them in right now and ask them to name their 5 favorite bands, I know each one of them's got one current band that's going to be on that list. Trent, it's going to be King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards, which pretty doggone good. But after that, it's going to be 4 bands that were from the basically 70s, maybe the 80s, because he's a big Talking Heads guy. Zach, his might be a little more shaded to this era. I know he's big on My Morning Jacket. I can kind of take him or leave him. I'm not knocking.
I like them.
It's just, but after you got past that, then it's going to be bands that, once again, that they were influenced by. If you ride in my car, you're listening to my shit. Yeah, but it's like, Trent, and I talked about this. I thought, a proud father moment when he sends me this link to a night with David Byrne in Atlanta. Now, I don't think it's till December or whenever it's coming up, but the sheer fact that he not only knows who that is, but he appreciates what he's done, and he's probably trying to hit me up for tickets, but still.
But Tony, I have to believe somewhere in there, and as I call him, Trevor, has seen the influence, the impact on you of just listening to a talking head song. I got some peanut butter. And how does Todd respond? And how does Trevor see his dad responding? And then he's going like, wow, that song must be have something good in it because my dad just freaked out. But I got some records to play, and those things. If I could, and I think I have, like you, if I couldn't do anything else other than carry that appreciation, that awareness of what we call good music to the next generation, to my kids, and it's not that I'm the authoritative source or that you're the authoritative source of things that fish is the greatest thing on the planet. That doesn't make either one of us wrong. But I do know the passion that comes when you feel what that thing that we call good music happens. And that influence and that emotional response. And whether that comes from Machine Gun Kelly or whether it comes from Pink Floyd, I don't know that I care. But it's different than listening to some song by somebody that has no connection or creates no connection to you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And if you disagree with us, that's fine. But like I said earlier, tell me why I'm wrong. I doubt I'm gonna buy it, but I'll listen. And, or if you got something that I think is not good, convince me why I'm wrong. I'll be more than willing to give something a listen.
Well,
but you better bring something to the table that's pretty damn strong.
and I guess another way of saying exactly what you said, Toddy, is we're talking about criteria. What are the things that we're judging music by to say, yeah, good music? And that criteria is strongly influenced by big things. Emotional response. But does it drive some emotional response in you? Does it have some connection to a point in time such that it's a time machine that can carry you back to a moment that you've really appreciated? Or is it something that's... So when that person comes to you, I guess is my point, Tony. When that person comes to you, maybe they could offer a criteria that is we haven't thought of, that says this is the other thing, the other reason that a piece of music is special to me and why I consider it to be good music. Maybe.
I like that. And then, but let me throw this at you. Okay, I know you well enough that you listen to something every day. Every day that you're awake, there's something playing through Dano's speakers.
Yep.
So therefore, I think you give current stuff a chance, and you've done that, because you're always willing to find something new.
All Jay.
Because we refer to it as, how many times have I, hey man, you got a list of this. Oh, cool. Who is that? It's just a band I stumbled upon. That is so much fun when you just, like I said, stumble upon the Wild Feathers. And I love that band.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start thinking of the stuff you want to hear, if you go, I'm going to go put something on. If you broke it up into segments of years, the majority of what you go back to and play are going to be from this era that we speak of. Now, that doesn't once again mean that there's not good stuff later, by no means. It just wasn't as much. And if I had to ask you right now, 5 bands off the top of your head, I would be willing to bet you there are going to be 5 bands from this era that you're talking about.
No.
Because those are the ones that are... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, no doubt. You're absolutely right, Tony. And it's for me, whatever. I don't think about it in terms of, well, I need a band from 1979, or I need a band from 1982. I need at times, a lot of times, a band that's comfortable to me.
Ooh, I like that.
I am a guy that is big on just comfortable. And sometimes that's what I need. With it.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
And it is, I need to be comfortable with it. And and I'm looking for that feeling, and I'm knowing that I can get it if I put on that cracker playlist that I have, for instance.
Once again, why do you like that band? Why do you like that record? It's because, comfortability aside, you connected with it. When it hit the airwaves, there was something that grabbed you, as you said a while earlier, by the throat. And it latched on and it never let go. Which then made you delve into the band more, and you learn about Lowry, who shares a lot of your same likes, even not music related. Yeah, I mean, the dude's a damn math teacher. Yeah.
Lifestyle characteristics, yeah.
So, but when it grabs you initially, then that makes you dig into the song and then the artist. Yeah, and you develop a relationship with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, think about all the trials, tribulations, whatever that you've had throughout your life. Music's what kind of has gotten you through.
There's no kind of for me, Tony. It is what has gotten me through. And I want public service announcement. Okay, so just for awareness, I play music. I've got a home recording studio, and I've got a band that lives only in my head. But they all live in my head. I compose songs, and as I compose those songs, it is so much of the comfort. It's kind of an inverse. You know, one is finding music that gives me comfort. It has brought me through some very rough places, and music that I play, that I compose, that has carried me through incredibly difficult places, and they both matter. They both matter.
Right. And that's all. This previous conversation was a long way to get to that one statement right there. And that is, it matters. And if music doesn't matter to you,
You're not gonna like this podcast.
no, and I'm probably not going to like you. So, yeah, there's that.
All right, Toddy. So we're about 40 minutes into this, plus or minus what I can salvage from the first 10 minutes that we spent. I'm going to open it up and say, hey man, if you got anything else you want to just say, okay. But before I do that, I just want to say, man, there is nothing more than I can imagine enjoying like I do talking about you. It's been such a huge part of my life. You know, I went from first foray was being a recording engineer, and then realized that Dothan, Alabama was not the mecca of recording in the United States. And then said, no, I'll just be an aerospace engineer. So I went and did that. But never did I leave that music, gosh, the passion, the part of me that it's built, influenced, created every day, I'm listening and or playing music. And, you know, my brother Toddy, he's one of the people that I know I can send a video to of some song at any point during the day and say, hey man, listen to this. This is pretty
Yeah.
cool. And then I'll get a response. It may be, "Eh, eh," but eh, it, but it may be, wow, that was cool. Um, but my brother Toddy
Well, I
and
think
we
both
share.
of us take some delight, I'll use that phrase, in that I run across something and, hey, you've got to check this out. And there's a hope you've never heard it.
Right.
So, you kind of one up. And then there's the second part is, and I hope he likes it. And now, I think you have probably turned me on to many more bands than I have you, but I don't know if the fact that I got you to listen to Scissor Sisters does it
And
gives
I
me a
love that.
spot.
I love that band.
So,
And
but
wild feathers. And oh my gosh.
how different could those two be? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
But that's where we started, right?
exactly right. So and I hope that continues on because once again it allows us, at least if I hear something, Dano needs to hear this. If Dano hears something, Todd needs to hear this. And it does allow both of us to at least make a decision on whether, if it's new, is it any good? And like I said, this is not that everything out there today is crap, but bring me something good. Yeah. And you do that, and shit, it's part of the playlist going forward.
Yeah.
St. Paul and the Broken Bones comes to mind. I love that band. Yeah. Uh, yeah. What do they play? White boy soul. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's good. Yeah. Hey, and you got a
Yeah. That's
Birmingham guys.
but that's part of the dilemma as I see it, Tony. And back we were talking about nice little drawers that have a label on the outside. It says this is rock, this is alternative, this is gospel, this is country, whatever. And the fact is, there is a lot of music out there that does not fit in any one particular drawer. And you
Right.
have to create a new drawer to say, oh wait, this is yacht rock. Two
I'm
years
good with
ago,
that.
2 years ago, who had heard of yacht rock, right?
You know what? But now that I know the bands that are in it, I like me some yacht rock. If you're going to
Exactly.
lump Steely Dan, Gary Rafferty, Pablo
Pablo
Cruz,
Cruz.
find your place in the sun, baby.
There you
Um,
go.
I can do yacht rock by all
And,
means.
and I'm just saying that when I upload songs, this band in my head is called Orbital Motion. When I upload songs by Orbital Motion to SoundCloud, it asks me, what genre is this? Hell, I don't know. I don't know.
Didn't
I've
we
never had,
phrase it space rock?
maybe so, maybe so. But I'm just saying it's a question that tries to put you into a box. As much as I would never claim to have any fondness for George. That's not for Manson. And one of the things that I remember from him is constantly saying, "You want to put my mind in a box, man? You can't put my mind in a box. My mind is too big for a box." Okay, well, my music is too big for a box. And to say you want me to put it in one, just the door shut,
Right.
it's not. And I think people are starting to realize that there is this, what do you call it, fusion or hybrid or smearing or whatever else. But that's, you can make music that doesn't fit in a box, and it can be good music.
I think this conversation has proven that point because with the bands we have previously mentioned, I don't think any of them were in a box. They done.
They broke out of the box.
But we'll use the term evolved because if bands don't evolve, I mean, this was your record and this is going to be the exact same on the next one and the next one, you're not going to last long. You've got to evolve, and you've got to keep giving people something different. Don't have to be better, it's just got to be different.
Well, evolve is a word, and it's analogous.
Yeah, well, okay, then I'm going to use Pink Floyd. You had this, Dark Side of the Moon, a very just melodic, easygoing, smooth as silk. And that kind of transitioned over into Wish You Were Here. And then in 77, almost comes out, and it's aggressive. It's different than anything they had done prior. And then 2 years later, The Wall. Ain't like none of them. Yeah. So there was that evolution of breaking out the box, or whatever we want to call it, that on that 4-album turn right there. That
I think it's both, though, Tony. I think if you went to the beginning, Pink Floyd had already broken out of the box. If you were to think about, quote, commercial kind of radio-ready music, they were, they had busted that wide open to start with. And somehow, they found traction. They found enough people like us that appreciated the fact that, hey, this is not like anything I've ever heard, but it's something I enjoy hearing, and it's affecting me in a good way. So you start there, and then they evolve. Even though they're already out of the box, they're evolving.
Yeah, and you talked about, how it affected you, or let's see, that's been 46 years ago that record came out.
220 by 225 by my count.
So, but watch David Gilmour's performance of Comfortably Numb in Brazil on this most recent tour, and the people listening to Comfortably Numb. I don't know how to describe
if we've not said one thing consistently here, Toddy, it's effect, emotional influence. And those people,
it was incredible.
The emotional influence that those people exhibited was just pure testament to exactly what we're talking about, the power of music to be.
Point. Right there. And that's kind of where we could end this up, because that drives it home of what it's supposed to do. And like I said, and that song's 46 years old. It's incredible. And I actually forwarded the video to a cousin of mine who's a music guy, and his reply was, "Holy shit, musical orgasm." Yeah. And I thought that's pretty much what people there were having. So kudos to the citizens of Sao Paulo and all. Now, what kind of moving forward, what do we want to discuss next week? Do we know yet? Or
I don't want to lie to you. I got some thoughts in my mind. But if we're going to transition back next week to you being a co-host, and this was I thought, a great opportunity to just kind of create some interplay between us, some conversation that wasn't scripted. And tomorrow, next time, we'll do this a little differently. I have some ideas for topics that I'll run through with you, but I want your input too. But the biggest thing tonight was just to capture some of the spontaneity and some of the passion that I think we both
of where it began.
Music.
Of where it began.
Exactly.
So, we'll get together, and I like how we done this. I mean, we could stay in this format, if you want. I'm good either way. So, once you decide on what we will discuss next time, we'll put it together, and let's move forward.
I like it, man. Good job.
Well, all right, my brother, enjoyed it. Have a good evening, and we'll talk next time.
See you, buddy.